next video is going to talk about the things that you need to do if you have a change in principal investigator. So if you have a change in staff, or such as the coordinators and the sub-Is on the delegation log, pretty much all you have to do is do an end date. Well, the PI will authorize that person's end date, and any vendors that they had access to, you want to make sure that you revoke their access. And then all their training logs, if they had individual training logs, you want to always draw that line, diagonal line between the blank sections. And this is for the site staff, not the CRA. The site staff needs to draw a line through those blank sections and initial and date, and provide that final training log to the CRA for ETMF upload. However, if it's a principal investigator change, there are more tasks involved. So as the CRA, you want to first and foremost let the person above you know. And again, depending on the organization, this person's title can be a clinical trial manager or a clinical operations leader. So it just depends on your organization. So you want to let that person know. You can also let your line manager know, because they might be familiar with the process as well and provide you with some guidance. But what we are going to have to do is that person above you, that code or that CTM, will need to get with the contract group, because now we need to ensure that the new principal investigator, first and foremost, has to be approved by the sponsor. So that's first. So that code needs to let the sponsor know, and the sponsor needs to say, okay, this person can be the new principal investigator. Once that approval process has taken place, then the contract person will be involved, and they will start the process of a new conflict of interest document and contract with that new principal investigator. That new principal investigator credentials will need to be collected. So their CV, medical license, and good clinical practice training needs to be collected. And of course, that individual will need to sign the most recent investigator brochure. On that investigator brochure acknowledgement, and they need to sign the most recently approved protocol or protocol amendment on that PI's signature page. These documents need to be collected. Once that, depending on the organization, where if the contract can run concurrently, or they have to wait till the contract is executed before they submit to the IRB, that will be based on the SOP on that site. But hopefully they can run concurrently, because as the contract is being processed, a submission can be made to the IRB to change the principal investigator. And with that being said, then that means the most recently approved ICFs, informed consent forms, will have to be updated to reflect that new principal investigator's information. So typically, unless they change addresses as well, that is going to remain the same, the address and the office telephone number. But the principal investigator's name will be updated to the new PI. And last but not least, we need to finalize the previous delegation law, and we need to create a new delegation law with the new principal investigator. Now, this, from what I understand, this can be done once the IRB has approved the PI change. But, I'm not sure the circumstances of the previous PI and how fast they will update the delegation law. But I don't think that it's good regulatory practice to quickly change the delegation law if there's no fully executed contract and IRB approval for the new PI. So definitely have that conversation with your organization to see what their standard operating practices is. But I would assume, just like the original principal investigator, site was not activated until there was a fully executed contract and IRB approval. I'm assuming that same standard applies to a PI change. So this process doesn't happen. It's not really common. Like, you don't expect to every study you go into to anticipate a PI change, but usually somebody is going to change. Sometimes PIs start a study and they are about to enter retirement, or they get a new opportunity and they get a new job. And unfortunately, some have to step down for medical reasons. So the reason is not something that we have to worry about now. If the PI was changed because the sponsor felt that the PI was not doing an adequate job of assessing the study and quality, and there's a quality issue, then that's also an option. But I'm not sure how often that happens as well. Typically, when a PI is changed, it's the site's or the PI's decision. So just stay on top of it. Try to always continue to keep everybody in the loop. Keep the site in the loop of the duration of the process, the contract approval process, the IRB approval process, and just make sure that you document this in your report. So as soon as you found out that there was going to be a PI change, typically reports have a section about whether or not you spoke to the principal investigator. In that section, you need to discuss this process. You need to discuss whether who's the new possible PI, whether or not the sponsor has approved that person, and that sort of thing. So I hope this helps if you have a principal investigator.